I think art is an important medium to engage the community for almost anything. I'm very excited that we're doing this program a second time. When they said it was only going to be the one shot last year, I thought, what a bummer. I mean, this is really an exciting program, and getting artists engaged in our community, showing people how to reuse things, how to think differently about things. I think we should do it as often as we can.
Artists have been using found materials in their work for a very long time. That's nothing new. But our mission and our purpose at Recology is to get people to think about their natural resources and think about recycling and compost more. So we want to translate this from the Recology San Francisco facility to the Glean program in Portland.
When Recology came to our area to provide their services, Crackpots got very, very excited and wanted to partner with them to start a program here. We brought Metro in. Glean is a program in its second year now in the Portland area where we're attempting to address the excessive waste generation that we have by harnessing artistic energy and prompting people to think about consumption habits, inspiring creative reuse, and initiating a larger conversation about the waste that we generate.
The metro region generates about 2.1 million tons of discarded materials per year, and that's materials coming from households and businesses. And while we do a really good job recycling, composting, and reducing waste, there's more we can do.
Glean is very effective at drawing attention to the materials and the items, the reusable and serviceable items that are discarded by our society that really frankly don't need to be there.
My name is Chandra Glaeseman, and I'm a sculptor. I feel so privileged to be able to work directly with what people are getting rid of. Initially, I was just really, really excited. And so I was gathering everything that I was attracted to. Once my work changed, once I got specific about wanting to make scavengers themselves, I would go out looking for that animal. I saw this couch, and at the same time I saw the vulture, and I think I saw more of the vulture than I did of the couch. And with the hyena, I saw the chair and I saw the hyena. They existed simultaneously. I feel like scavengers and gleaners of all kinds also serve a very important function within society, and that gets overlooked. I want my audience to consider maybe a different perspective on who we are as artists, who we are as gleaners, who we are as recyclers and can men and freegans and dumpster divers, to see it as a valuable component to society rather than something to be looked down on.
I'm Andrew Auble, and I'm a collage artist. I was creating a lot of collages using materials that I would find on walks, like cigarette foil, gum wrappers, stuff like that. So my process involves starting off with a sketch. And what I do is I use tracing paper, basically like trace the shape that I need. I get the shape that I want on the back of the material that I want, and I use a glue stick to glue down most materials that I use. A bunch of rock climber magazines, and I use those rocks as thumbstones in this piece, which is titled Thumbstone Excavation.
I guess my background, I have to start, is is doing hair as a cosmetologist. I didn't go into it to be pretty or anything like that. That was never my interest. It was mostly manipulating the fiber and learning how to like shape and sculpt with it. And then sewn, you know, it was through that manipulation that then I learned like how to play with other materials. And even making clothes, I don't really care about making real clothes. I just want to make texture and shapes and sculpture. So that has been my curiosity and interest. My process of finding the materials and making the textiles is that I don't want to work with fabric or traditional fibers. In a way that feels like cheating to me because it's so easy to manipulate. My favorite material right now I'm kind of obsessed with is mini blinds. So this corset is made out of mini blinds, and I measured and drilled each hole. I want to work with unusual materials and figure out how to make them really feminine, or take that masculine bike tire tube and make it soft and approachable and interesting. And I think that by putting the objects on the body, it invites a different conversation with people about things, because there's a person behind it. There's a person wearing it. There's a person walking in it. It's hard to describe the power of wearing a piece. X-rays, because it's such a beautiful material, but it's only beautiful. I certainly feel like a changed person from this experience already, and it's really hard to know how much this is going to affect the rest of my life, like how that will look. But my relationship to stuff was already a sensitive issue, and now I just I mean, I want to tell as many people as possible, like, "Wah, don't throw that away. We'll figure out a way to work with that."
I am Greg Hanson, and I am one of the Glean Dream Team members out of 5 of us working here in Portland at the city dump, and I'm an assemblage artist. I have picked up an amazing assortment of stuff that I've been using in my work. I've got everything from old piano parts to you know, rusted metals. There's some musical instruments here. There's old glass, there's old toys, you know, some wooden scraps down here that I'm using for to create some of my boxes. Somewhere along the way into my adult life, I discovered the artist Joseph Cornell. And like I tell everybody, it was kind of like a giant switch that went on in my head. And I knew that I just had to know a little bit more about assemblage art. And I wanted to create some of my own work, some of my own boxes. I want children to see this as well as adults, but I want kids to see what we're doing, how we're reusing this kind of trash, how we're able to use this reuse this kind of trash in our lives, and that they can do the same thing.
I'm Sarah Wolf Newlands. I identify myself as a painter. I heard about the Glean program through Portland State. The art department sent a message to their listserv. And I thought, that is so cool. That's like my dream come true. What I'm working on here for the Glean project is really a response to things I see. I've done a lot of drawing and painting from observation, and when I look at that pile of stuff, I'm drawn to particular shapes, textures, colors, materials, and I've begun to collect specific materials, specific objects, particularly Afghans, quilts, and handmade sewn things and braided things and crocheted things that were made with love and discarded. Working on the Glean project has made me think about waste. Maybe it reminds me how much is thrown away every day, which is just mind-blowing. One thing that I'm struck by that is driving some of my work is this idea that things don't stop, that it's a flow like a river, and it's a cycle, and that the materials just keep coming and people don't stop consuming. The world just keeps going and we just keep consuming and wasting and consuming and wasting. People say, you know, there are two things in life that you can't avoid, death and taxes. I also think waste is part of that. And in my work, I'd like to be able to address the idea that things thrown away are not thrown away. They're here, and they're here to stay, but we can transform them. I mean, art might be a metaphor for this, but it's the idea that we can compost, that we can recycle, that we can make choices to use things that reinforce that cycle, rather than reinforce a cycle of waste.
Artists help us look at the world differently. So if they pull something out of the public disposal area and embed it with meaning, or it becomes an object that's very compelling or even beautiful, then we look at that object differently, and then we start to think, maybe I don't need to buy that extra pair of shoes, or maybe I can stretch the life out of this object a little bit longer.
I think Glean will make a difference if we can inspire people to think more about the issue of overconsumption, resource depletion, and wasting.
We as a society can get to waste zero if we're all doing our part.
The Glean program is very helpful in that it helps people think about garbage in very different ways. When you're getting ready to throw something away, if you've had this experience of the Glean program and seen things like this wonderful necklace made out of somebody else's garbage, you're going to think twice about throwing that away. I've talked to people who are jealous of the artists who got to go in and look at the garbage and pick through it and find things that could become art. And I say to them, you know, if you looked at your junk before you throw it out, there's probably a lot of creative things you could be doing with it.
Artists are ambassadors, and by having them work directly in the belly of the beast, they can testify about the issues that they witness, in addition to celebrating what they find in a very creative way and bring it to our attention in a way that might not threaten us in the beginning, but still gets us to question some of the underlying assumptions of our consumer society.